What's up, YouTube? As you can probably tell with how late these videos were, I had some major issues. During the editing process for these videos, as I was going over the SAO footage for Lost Song and Hollow Realization, the hard drive on my PC gave up the ghost. 2 whole terabytes of data gone, vanished into the ether. I usually try to make backups of everything too. And guess what? The main hard drive that I was using also gave up the ghost on me. Meaning that while I was able to recover the footage for Wild Hearts and both Star Wars titles, I lost my full platinum playthrough of SAO Lost Song and Hollow Realization. This is also why the footage for this video will be a bit of SAO Alicization Lycoris and the anime itself, because that is all the footage I could salvage regarding SAO. As such, what would have been 2 videos has now been merged into one, where I'll be much briefer in coverage, as I also need to make headway on all of September's videos too. So let's get into the sheer tedium of these games that not only broke me, but also had the nerve to break my computer. First, I want to talk about Sword Art Online as a concept and series to set the stage with my expectations. The whole series starts off as a bunch of players getting trapped in an MMORPG and having it turn into a death game. If you die in the game, you die for real. Obviously, this concept isn't exactly new. Really quick, off the top of my head, other IPs that have a similar premise are that one episode of Kim Possible, some episodes of Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents, and, most notably, Code Lyoko. Hell, one could even argue The Matrix falls in line with this concept as well, entering virtual reality and abusing its rules and logics. And I'm pretty sure that the Doc Hat franchise predates Sword Art 2. The initial batch of episodes being stuck in the game of SAO was, for the longest time, the peak of the franchise. Alfheim Online didn't seem to do much, and it took Reki Kawahara a while before some decent stories came about. And of course, what starts to set SAO apart is that instead of it being a one-off story, SAO tries to tell a continual story that focuses more on the human side of gaming, not just things like self-sacrifice, but relatable things like player jealousy, community attachment, guild fighting guild, guild infighting, griefing, camping, rumors of players or suspicions about quests that may be completely baseless and or unwarranted, grinding for skills, levels, and loot, the obligatory coordination of multiple parties unique to MMO games, player killing, and the general personal and sometimes parasocial relationships that occur as a result of people inhabiting and living in these games and worlds. SAO also brings up questions about the ethics of certain actions in games, as even though the system may punish them, there can be worse consequences IRL, and eventually the series gets more philosophical, talking about the inherent escapism of games, the need for the entertainment and consumption of them, the extension of semi-parasocial relationships, and the rights of intelligent, human-like AI, which are basically just artificial people. I'm probably not the only one who shed a tear over Yuki's storyline, which revolves around her being so sick that she can't live a real life. So VR is the only way she can have some semblance of normalcy. Hell, on a personal level, games make a hell of a lot more sense to me than real life fucking does. And games make a hell of a lot more sense than people in real life. So Yuki's story probably affected me more than others. On the other hand, my wife got heavily invested into Shinon's story, and seeing how my wife had grown up, she thought it would make the most sense that a small child would defend herself with a gun if given the chance. And, for a time, my wife was heavily fixated on the role, duty, efforts, and effectiveness of snipers. And with the ongoing developments in robotics and AI, it might only be a matter of time before they become self aware and either have the same issues as in the SAO Underworld and Alice arcs, or we might just end up like the future in Terminator. So, the first game of the 5 that we're leaving is the third game in the SAO video game series, Lost Song. Set during an alternate version of the events from SAO, there are some additional characters added to the cast, and the game focuses on its revised canon of events, with later characters having been added to the roster to promote the series more. Bandai Namco originally made this series for the PSP, so the limited scope and graphics were pretty apparent. The game is unfortunately not much more than a very grindy button masher. Although combat in Lost Song is at least mildly interesting, as you can fly, and by sheathing your weapon you can use magic, letting you quickly alternate between sword skills and magic. However, all of the benefits are brought down as there is only one set of attacks per weapon, and the grind to unlock the skills is pretty merciless. The RPG mechanics are also weird, as about 80% of the damage or damage reduction comes from your equipment. Levels, for the most part, are superfluous and have very low increases. You also always want to be fighting things that are higher leveled than you, as if you fight things that are the same or below, the experience gains for levels, skills, and mastery is heavily neutered. The pacing is also terrible, as the core loop is unlock hub, explore hub, head back to town, go to 325 dungeons, head back to town, go back to 1 to 3 new dungeons, fight area boss, unlock next area. I have a problem with this as the game makes you head back to town so often, especially when so many times I was ready to continue, but the game says, no, go back to town and waste 10 to 20 minutes in cutscenes. Due to levels not meaning much, it's actually better if you rush through the story beats, as you will progressively get stronger much faster by avoiding most basic enemies and doing the mandatory and dungeon fights. And to get the platinum, a fair amount of time is going to be from grinding for several trophies, like completing 100 side quests, completing 100 extra quests, learning every skill on a character, which means upgrading all 3 weapon skills to 600, and getting all magics, usually up to 500. There is a bit of an easy way to do these, though. The trick to this is to do one of the extra quests, named Beast Banquet, and take the side quests for hunting the monsters found within. You can repeat side and extra quests, and the counter will still go up. Beast Banquet has a small area of several varieties of monsters, so the percentages will go up quickly. Then, once the side quests are done, then you can just do the extra quest, the first one, to fight the dragon, which is the very first one you'll get, until you get the trophy. Heck, this quest becomes so easy that a single sword skill can usually end the quest in under a minute. The game is pretty darn mediocre. The combat is button mashy and very samey, and not very fun. And I'm not sure if it's because I got lucky with some of the RNG or because I started just running through the game's story, but the average expected platinum time is 50 hours, but somehow I got it in about 34 hours, which means I shaved off 16 hours of the projected time. The platinum is only a 1.5 out of 10. Death in this game basically means nothing. Quests are easy, there's no puzzles, and overall it's just a very easy game. The game itself, though, is pretty subpar, despite the potential strength of the world and stories. It all just falls flat. I mean, in this canon, Yuki doesn't even have the courtesy to die from AIDS. She somehow starts to get better and just keeps on living. Overall, the game seems to function, and beyond the tedium, the game's OST is the only thing that is really memorable, so the game's gonna get a 50 out of 100 on the Dan the Ranking Man scale. Then, to wrap things up, we have the game that broke me. SAO Hollow Realization. This game, this stupid game, broke me and soured me to this franchise's games. I did not get the platinum for this game, nor did I attempt to do so for the remaining 3 games. I got swamped with some heavy real life shit that no one cares about, and a big part of this game, Hollow Realization, and Alicization Lycoris have trophies that can only be gotten after 100 hours of game time. I had both my PS4 and my PS5 running overnight or during my other daily life tasks to rack up the playtime, as I figured 30 or 40 hours would be enough to get the rest of the content. But for this game in particular, there is simply so much tedium and so much grinding that doesn't pay off that I just couldn't stick with it and had to throw in the towel. Of the 8 games for this month, I couldn't do 4 of them because Sword Art Online Hollow Realization broke me. And it fried my computer too. So let's at least get into the why. This game's trophies, for the most part, are all back-ended. Most of the trophies will be earned in the post-game, with very few done for completing the story. Much like Lost Song, equipment is the name of the game. Levels and stats don't mean much. And the game definitely does not want you to level up, as the enemies give pittance amounts of EXP, even if you are taking down something that is twice your level. Oh yeah, and because enemy levels don't mean too much, it's only a problem if the enemies are several magnitudes above you, like triple your level or higher. The enemy variety is a big step up from Lost Song, with less recolors and more variety overall. Item drops are now significantly reduced for rare items and material upgrades, so expect to grind a lot. The game is also weird, as beyond the same go back to town first locks, until you get to the post game practically, most of the points on the map for dungeons aren't accessible until very late game, which is kind of dumb. Like, why do you even have them on the map to start with? Just add them when they get unlocked. This game does have some better presentation for the visual novel moments as well, with a lot more artwork and a lot more fan service. But the combat is markedly worse. Somehow it's more button mashy, and the team ups and multipliers make it a breeze until you get to later levels where it's not really harder, just more of a slog. There are 5 main hub areas consisting of monsters and a final raid boss. They really went all in on the simulation of a single player take on an MMO with lots of player NPCs, friendship mechanics, side quests, etc. I do take issue that on day 1 of the game, when the servers just got up, there are characters that are already level 20, which isn't possible, especially with how little EXP enemies give from the first area, and the main boss of the first area hasn't even been found yet. Then, to make matters worse, is the need to unlock every single EX skill for trophies. These have hidden requirements with no way to check your progress on them. They'll just pop once the conditions have been met. These can range from something simple, like reviving 40 teammates, to something ludicrous like attacking 10,000 enemies, or blocking 3,000 attacks. And then, if you do manage to get that, there's still a trophy for using a single sword skill 10,000 times, which takes 4 fucking ever. I got to around 2,100 uses for one when my used skill, and I was nowhere close. And then there's the grind of making friends with 100 NPC player characters. Seeing the minor progress show up once, that is what sapped all my will and energy. And somehow I still hadn't even unlocked 200 skills in the skill tree. I just got so tired and burnt out. So that's why this month is a mission failed. Or, looking at it another way, better than projected due to the first 3 being done well and Lost Song as an addition. Hopefully, the games leaving in September aren't as bad as this. No ranking for Hollow Realization this time either, since I didn't complete it. So, like and subscribe. Stay tuned to see what games will be played next month. Check out my other videos, and remember, this month of August, I was definitely the loser, with games that were so bad they not only broke me, but also my computer and hard drives as well.